Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast, where I find regular people doing outstanding and phenomenal things in corporate America and entrepreneurship. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. K. I have with me today Welby Accely at my best 197. Y'all probably seen him everywhere, man. A guru in real estate. And thank you for blessing us with some time today, Welby.
Listen, I'm humbly appreciate to doing this with you. I'm not a guru, man. I'm a regular guy just like you guys. I just do real estate, man. But I appreciate your kind words, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So not a guru, but you're very knowledgeable. You even teach others to do exactly what it is that you're doing, how to avoid some pitfalls and mistakes. What first brought you into real estate before you even got into being, a coach or mentor and that type of stuff?
Well, I always tell the story of my godfather. My godfather planted the seed of being in real estate, but I didn't realize it until later on in life. So
Mm,
at the age of 7 years old is when that was implanted in my mind. And as I said later on, I realized the influence that he had in me. And what happened is that myself and my siblings, along with my parents, my aunt, my uncles, we all lived in a small 3-bedroom apartment in the projects in Brooklyn, New York. I'm from Brooklyn,
okay.
born in Queens, and I'm living now on Long Island. So my godfather was the first person I could remember that when he would come to our home, he looked different from everybody else. He was clean cut,
Yeah.
nicely shaven, dressed nice, had a nice car, and then he would also do something that was important that influenced me huge, where he would take myself and my twin brother and my other four brothers. It's 5 of us in total, and we would all go to Long Island along sometimes with my parents or just myself or with my siblings, and we would go and hang out with him. And he lived in the suburbs. So if anybody understands the dramatic change from being in the projects in the concrete jungle and then going to the suburbs, it was dramatic. And
Yeah.
one of the things that was what that was extremely influential to me was that when we were living in the projects in Brooklyn, my parents were extremely protective. So we would be able to we would ride our bicycles, but we were only allowed to ride our bicycles in the cul-de-sac, riding around in a circle.
Mm,
So when I would visit my godfather in Long Island, and he would say, "Hey guys, get out the house, go play." And me and my brothers, we would kind of like be like, "Okay," and we'd only play in a really small area. And he'd be like, "No, take the bike and ride." And when we would ride our bikes, we were able to ride our bikes in the middle of the street, on the
yeah.
sidewalk, all over. And I was blown away as a kid, simply just being able to ride my bike in the middle of the street. And later on, I'm starting to realize that my godfather was into real estate. He owned his own brokerage. He had people that worked for him. He owned 2 or 3 rental properties. And that's when I started realizing that he was able to build the lifestyle that he was living was through real estate. And that was like the first seed that was planted in my mind about the power of real estate. And then I just grew to have serious interest in real estate later on in life.
Did that experience impact any of your other, four brothers the way it did you, or because I find it interesting sometimes you can grow up in the same household, and turn out totally different than somebody that you even was raised with.
Um, yes and no. Me and my twin brother, as far as ambition of looking outside of just employment,
Mm,
me and my brothers kind of neck and neck with that. My other brothers, we've all ultimately end up doing good for ourselves. But as far as the entrepreneurial spirit, I guess if you could say,
yeah,
it was really me and my twin brother primarily.
yeah, okay. So you were exposed to like this sense of freedom, being able to go spend time with your uncle, and you found out that freedom kind of came from real estate. But how long was it? I mean, you were a child then, just riding your bike. So how long was it before you actually were able to do something in real estate?
I didn't start investing in real estate till the age of 25, 26 years old. That was when I first got into doing real estate. Prior to me officially getting into real estate, um, you know, everybody's talking around you about being an entrepreneur. Everybody's talking around you about investing, and regardless what it was. And at the time when I started investing was around the subprime mortgage. So that would be, I started buying around 2004. So this was the thing to do. Everybody was doing it. Yeah. Then, of course, when I talked to you about the influence of what I described to you prior with my Godfather, I jumped in because everybody else was doing it and wanted to do it. But because of the influence, I was like, man, I could do it too. But I didn't understand how much work it entailed and the things that would have been needed for me to be successful. So, but I started investing, like I said, sometime around 2004. I started investing in real estate.
Yeah. So tell me about that first transaction. Was it scary for you to get into?
I'm still scared today, but
man.
So I guess we could say, to make it clear with everybody, the fear never goes away. You always have a level of apprehension when you're doing something, especially when you're about to indebt yourself and also put up a bunch of money, right, that you work for. But as far as my first deal, I wanted to be a landlord. You know, I'm hearing, people are buying real estate. People are supposedly making all this money being a landlord. Yeah. I wanted to be a landlord too. So the first piece of property that I purchased was in Atlanta, in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I bought me a 4-unit property or 4-family property for my first investment property. And my entry point was being a landlord.
Okay. And how did it work out for you being a landlord?
Horrendous.
Horrendous.
I at the time, if anybody understands the subprime mortgage era, all you needed to do was have a pulse. You were breathing, you were alive, and they were throwing mortgages at you. So thankfully at the time, I was gainfully employed. Thankfully at the time, I was responsible, so I had strong credit. But I didn't even need to come to the table with any money. I just needed to be alive. And the banks were giving what they call at that time 106% financing. They were financing you 100%, and then the additional 6% was for the closing costs that they rolled into the mortgage. So when I bought the property, with what is 106% financing, but the real breakdown is an 80-20 loan. So 80% of the loan was purchased with one bank, and in the same deal, the other 20% that was a much higher interest rate was then done with another mortgage company, and then the interest rate, the closing costs or the closing fees of the actual transaction was tied into the whole deal, which came up to the 106% financing. So at the time when I bought the property, I paid for that 4-unit. I paid $220,000 for that property. Okay. So I didn't come out of pocket anything major out of my own pocket, and then I ended up buying and owning a 4-unit building.
All right. So you said you weren't afraid, but you said this was horrendous. So what allowed you to get through that transaction and still to this day be in it?
I was afraid. I was terrified.
Yeah.
As far as me getting into it, once again, it's just anybody could have did it at the time because you just had to be alive.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it was horrendous is because I was taken advantage of. I didn't realize it through the entire process up to the closing table, purchasing the property, and then of course ultimately owning it. But I didn't understand the process. There's a basic tried and tested process within real estate that everybody that's in real estate, that is doing real estate to scale, that is actually a real estate investor, that the foundation of doing it, there's a process that you go through to vet a deal, to make sure that the deal makes sense and that the deal will work for what your ultimate goals are with the property. I didn't understand that. I just thought that my win was because I was able to buy the property.
Oh, okay.
So when what I'm talking about that happened in 2004, what are we in 2022? So what is that? 18 years later, and we're right back where we started, but the dynamics are different, but the end results are going to be the same. So when I bought the property for the 220 and it's supposed to be a rental property, hey, if we're here to be a landlord or we're buying a rental property, what's the ultimate goal with owning a rental property?
It should be the cash flow, I believe, right?
Right? 100% right. That's the logic.
Yeah.
I didn't understand cash flow. I didn't understand that the manner of how I'm buying this property, with me acquiring the property, and then, of course, since it's 4 units, that means that there have to be 4 apartments that has to produce income that ultimately will have to be able to pay the debt and then leave me with the surplus, which would be my net cash flow.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I was just happy that I was able to buy it, and then I was encouraged by the realtor, the mortgage lender, and everyone else in between that was supposed to look at my best, look out for my best interest. So now I own the property. They all disappear, and here I am. I own a property that I thought that I could make work and that I'd be able to cash flow. But when I started inputting the numbers to what I thought could be based off of what was represented to me, it never worked out. That property mortgage, if I can remember off the top of my head, was maybe $1,800 a month.
Okay.
Each unit was supposedly supposed to rent out and profit me at least $700 per month. $700 times 4, I'm supposed to have been able to get $2,800 per month.
Yeah.
So that means before paying out expenses, I should have had a roughly $1,000 net profit. Now you're gonna pay what do you call this? Property manager to manage the property for you, which they will charge you 10% of the gross income, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ultimately ended up happening is the best I was able to rent these apartments for, and we're not even counting my rehab costs and everything else, which I didn't understand that either. The most I was able to get out of those apartments was $500 a month. So $500 a month times 4 is $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So some people will say, well, Welby, the mortgage is $1,800. You were left with $2,000. But no, the property manager gets 10%.
Yeah.
So the property manager got $200 a month, which and plus the other miscellaneous fees and costs I had to do with managing, I was in the negative every month, several $100s. Yeah. And this is from out the gate of me owning the property. So it was only a matter of time. I mean, there's so much more that happened in between that I talk about in depthly with the people that follow me, and then of course I mentor and stuff like that, of what ultimately ended up happening. So if we could fast forward it, I ended up approximately 3 years later losing the property to foreclosure. What I attempted to do was, I tell everybody I was trying to save my life, my economic life, my personal life, my pride. I did what everybody's doing today. I was trying to do the Burr strategy. Buy, rehab, refinance, repeat.
Rent. You skip rent. Yeah, rent.
I'm sorry. Rent, thank you, repeat. Look, as much as I do and as much properties that I own, the millions that I own, I don't act like I'm a brainiac. But yes, you understand. So that I attempted to try to do that. So ultimately I ended up refinancing the property. But what people don't understand, when you're doing that strategy, which is nothing wrong with doing it as long as you're doing it properly, the ultimate end goal of that process is more debt. So when I refinanced the property, I had to refinance the property, adding more debt. So now my $220,000 mortgage turned into $240,000. My property that I was mortgage that was $1,800 increased to $2,100.
Wow.
The rent still didn't change.
Yeah.
The property manager payment still didn't change, but my losses every month increased. Of course, now being a landlord, you're gonna have tenants that don't pay.
Yeah.
We didn't even start talking about the maintenances of stuff that I had to go through, the rehabs I had to go through. That was horrendous with the contractor robbing me and everything else like that. Long story, what ended up happening, I ended up losing the property to foreclosure. My property that I purchased at the bank for 200, that I purchased from the bank for 220,000, refinanced to 240,000, was ultimately sold at auction for $60,000.
God, dog.
So now when we're talking about fighting for your life, do you understand how devastating that is to me? Do you understand how devastating that was to me?
Yeah, I really couldn't imagine, because then you follow that property after the foreclosure, and then you see it go for 60,000.
You understand?
Man.
You understand the blow to you?
Yeah.
And that property was essentially like my child.
Yeah.
You understand? All of my properties, in a sense, it's business, but you got to nurture them like your children. So you imagine now you're trying to nurture something, and it ultimately, I mean, if you want to go be morbid and say it died, you know how devastating that was?
Mm.
So so that's what ultimately ended up happening. My credit went from the mid 700s to the low 5s. You know, I was supposed to not be able to buy any more real estate for at least 7 years.
Yeah.
And all the other things that come with that. I was devastated, you know?
Well, you're talking about fighting for your life, and you're talking about, being a man. We got pride. And how did you get through a situation where a lot of times people hold on to an investment, a business, some type of idea for too long? Even people hold on to relationships for too long because they don't want people on the outside to see them as a failure.
That's right.
How'd you get through that part?
Exactly what you described is exactly what happened to me. I was fighting for my life, fighting to save it. So you imagine now I'm working, and then I'm taking the income that I'm generating from my employment to then pay a mortgage on a property. I'm not living there, and I'm still living at home with my parents. Yeah. My tenants were living better than me. And I fought, but then it got to a point that economically, let's say I was here, the property was here, and then finally got to a point we met at the middle. Then I started going to the point that this is me here, and now I'm down here now. Mm. And now I had to make a choice. Either I got to let this property go and take the licks that I'm about to get and accept it, or we all going to come down. So I ended up having to let it go. And it took approximately 8 or 9 months for the foreclosure to happen. Yeah. And I just had to let it go. And then you imagine now, I pay attention to my credit, and then I get my first notification that they just notified the fact that I didn't pay my mortgage yet. And now it hit my credit, a late fee. Then I start getting the pink slips from the banks. Then I started getting the tenants contacting me and saying, hey, a marshal came over here and said that the property's about to go to foreclosure and all this other crazy stuff. Yep. Until it ultimately happened. So it was just devastating. It was just just devastating.
But clearly you persevered. Something else that you were talking about. So you got into that property, and you got taken advantage of, you're saying, because back then it was, like you said, if you got a pulse, you can get the property. And you're seeing a lot of the same trends, same things happening in the times that we're in right now. Can you tell me what you mean by that? Because it's not really the subprime thing, but it's something else going on that you're noticing.
Here's a question I always ask people, right? I look at you like a brother. I care about you, right? And I mean that sincerely.
Yeah.
God forbid if I got a word and they said that Kevin passed away, and then they said to me, hey, he had a heart attack. Or someone else says to me, hey, he died in a car accident. The end result is I'm fucked up because my boy is gone.
Yeah.
So who cares how it happened? My boy is not here anymore. I'm hurt. So when we get caught up with the trick, and I hope you understand my analogy, we get caught up with the trick of, the reason why that occurred at that time was because of the subprime mortgages. Then now what we're happening today, they're saying, hey, today it's not about the subprime mortgages. It's because of what happened with the pandemic, or it's because of the inflation, or it's because of whatever that they want. The end result is you're going to have a lot of people, excuse my language if I may curse, going to be fucked up. And I don't think that they're going to be worrying about, was it because of the subprime or was it because of the pandemic? It's going to be the fact that the end result is they're going to be financially devastated. You understand?
Yeah.
So who cares what the root cause of it is? Are you prepared for it? Are you prepared to be able to navigate through it? So if you look at regardless of what the root cause was, the effects of how the economy is acting within the real estate business, it's the same shit.
Yeah.
They just packaged it differently. So the same way when you see reckless spending, that was happening back then. The same way you seeing artificially priced houses as in terms of the values increase, that happened then too. Yeah. The same way you seeing mortgage lenders and realtors manipulating the people to buy that property because they don't want to be FOMO, fear of missing out. It's the same thing that happened back then too. It's the same thing. So when I'm standing on top of a mountain, screaming out loud to the people, I'm not saying it because I want to be right. My goal is not to be right and to prove them wrong. That's not my goal. My goal is to make sure you're on the right side of the tracks, regardless what happens. That's what my goal is. So who cares what the root cause is? So when I'm watching that avalanche coming, I'm yelling, screaming. Who cares the reason why the avalanche came is because it was a dynamite that came, or it was simply because one of the people were walking and they pushed the right pebble that dropped the avalanche. The bottom line is the avalanche is coming, people. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, you got me going on a rant. So,
no, you right on point because sometimes people they only want to see the good side, and even though they see all these warning signs, they don't want to acknowledge it. And right now, it's a good time for everybody to be, in real estate. Flipping houses is good for the realtors right now. Don't really need a whole lot of talent. Some of them are thinking they're good. They might not be.
I call them out every day.
Yeah.
I call them out every day, and I don't disrespect nobody. I always tell people that we're not here to do a world star hip hop moment. I only speak my truth. Yeah. Now I can't guarantee how somebody's gonna take it, but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the facts of it. Most of the realtors don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
They don't. You got a whole lot of new realtors today that are looking like superstars that was not here 3 years ago. They jumped in because all you got to do is throw crap to the wall. That's it.
Yeah.
It's going to sell. Same thing with mortgage lenders. Same thing with people that are doing startup contracting. Everybody got free money because of these incentives, the government credits, and all the other things that happened. So everybody got money. Even though it's borrowed money, everybody got money. So everybody looking like superstars. But it's changing now.
Okay.
Pay attention. I tell everybody, just look. Shut up a second, sit down, and just look. And you'll see it. Now let's see how these people in all the different sectors will perform in the next few months, the next year.
Yeah.
You will not see them. You will not see most of them around. So are you prepared to be able to capitalize on one of the greatest financial wealth transfers in the world's lifetime? And everybody got an opportunity to take advantage of it. Every one of us got an opportunity to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So something like that is inevitable, right? You talk about like the avalanche scenario. Who cares how it happened? But whether it happens right now or whether it happens in 5 years from now, it's going to occur. So what do you say to the investor who is new, doesn't have the experience that you have to get through something like that? You had a lot of resiliency. You had a lot of fortitude to push through something like that. That would have crushed a lot of people.
Here's the thing, if I may add. You're only hearing of the first instance of me failing. I failed in this business catastrophically 3 times. So the same scenario I just finished describing to you and how I got wiped out to literally zero, that happened to me 3 times in this business. 3 times. And so that was my entry points in being a landlord. And then, of course, I came back into the game trying to be a flipper. I got wiped out again.
Yeah.
You understand? And then when I got wiped out, I got back up. Took me a couple of years to dust myself up, pick up again, and I get wiped out again. So, your question was, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
The question is about resiliency, because you pushed through what I was saying one time, but it's 3 times you pushed through, being wiped out, a downfall, the emotional roller coaster of that all. And somebody's going to go through that when this inevitable crash happens, whether it's this year, whether it's in 5 years. So what do you say to that investor so that they can get through that type of situation?
The biggest thing that I would ever tell somebody is to properly educate yourself. That's the number one thing. The number one thing. Align yourself up with somebody or people that are really experienced in it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they look like they are, but they're truly experienced in it. Because you will take losses in this business. Everybody takes losses. Everybody takes losses in this business. Not because you're stupid, not because you're an idiot, not because everybody takes losses. Even with the stuff I'm doing now, man, listen, bro, I got $50,000. I got tied up in a situation right now today. And I'm like, yo, damn, how the hell am I gonna get my money out of that shit, man?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we all gonna take losses. The name of the game is to make sure that your wins are that much more bigger and heavier that you could absorb it. So you better align yourself up with people that are really playing in this game.
Yeah.
Better educate yourself. Understand the importance of, I know you guys heard it before, buying right. And understand how to identify before you even acquire, how are you buying right? Does it align with what your ultimate goals are with that property? Are you wholesaling it? Are you flipping it? Are you keeping it long term? There's a different approach for each scenario. If you could buy it correctly, and to add to, as long as you understand that from the beginning, what's going to happen in a market is irrelevant to you.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if the market is going to have a downturn or if the market's going to continue going up. It don't matter if the interest rates are going to go at the 2%, 3%, or if the interest rates are going to be 20%. That is irrelevant to you. Because at the end of the day, when you do your homework from the beginning of analyzing that project or that property, if it doesn't align, regardless of the direction or the trajectory that the market is going or not, comparatively to whatever the interest rates are, if it don't align, it ain't a deal. But if it does align, regardless of the trajectory, regardless of the interest rate, you're going to buy that property. It took me a long time to understand that.
Got it.
It took me a long time to understand that. And when it snapped in my mind, yo, bro, I'm a fucking animal, bro. I'm an animal, bro. And when I say that humble. Not an animal and I'm being better than John Doe or Jane Doe. I'm not chasing nobody. I'm proud of everybody. I'm happy for everybody. I'm talking about within what I got going on, I'm popping. I'm working. We making money over here. That's what I'm talking about. So you need to understand that from the gate. Now, to go back to the original question too of being of the fear, of course I still have apprehension and anxiety. I'm about to write a check for $250,000. Damn. I'm about to write a check for $250,000 to buy this piece of property.
Yeah.
So of course you're gonna have anxiety. We're human. It's okay. But the odds are way more in my favor that $250,000 come up is going to be so great. It's worth the not gamble. A lot of people are gambling. It's worth the investment to do it.
Right. Because you've analyzed it properly. You've reduced your risk. And so that can help you with that fear some too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So you get through, analyzing deals and stuff like that. And you talk about, you were just talking about people who are actually doing it and following somebody who actually does it. And, you're known as Mr. Receipts. So you got documentation all day. You're not somebody who's just, gassing people up or showing people things, as a facade.
If I may say so, I don't have receipts because I'm trying to brag. I'm not into that. what better than to have somebody that today, especially today, because of social media and because of the ability of being able to communicate like you and I even doing right now, it's so easy for somebody to give you a theory of something, the idea of something. There's a huge difference between a theory and the application.
Yeah.
When I speak with people, I'm not talking about the theory or the idea. I'm giving you factual applications. So at the end of it, when we conversing about a scenario, the exact application of what I'm telling you, the process of what I'm telling you resulted in this $80,000 check. We're talking facts.
Yeah.
And too many people are enticed by the idea of something versus the reality of it. So that's the reason why I'm big on receipts. I'm big on providing documentations of really, yeah, this is a project that we just completed or we did in the past or whatever it is, and this is what happened. That's the reason why I do that.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't saying it in the way that you brag, because I look at it like deeds, not words, right? So if you want to go to a team, you got somebody like Phil Jackson, he's not bragging, he's got those championships. I mean, that's just
right.
documented proof. So it's not,
right.
It's not in a way to brag at all. But if you got somebody that you want to be, that you want to look up to, or that you want to get guidance from, you want somebody who's experienced. That's the most important thing.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what do you got going on currently that you're trying to, get going for the people? Because that's what it's all about.
Well, I've been doing what I call the real estate ride along. So I've been doing that for a number of years. The pandemic slowed us down a little bit, but I've been doing ride alongs where I literally have people and they fly throughout the entire country. And they come in through the states that they could drive to, where I spend, I'd say about 12 hours with them, where they come and they hang out with me. They come to one of my facilities, and I take them out to go see multiple current property projects I got going on.
Yeah.
And then I also, which would be, let's say, flips. And then I would then tie that into the rental properties that I own. And then I showed them receipts. I showed them the processes, of how I acquired that property, why I bought it. Here's the first stage of where we at with the rehabbing. Explain to them how I broke down figuring out the rehab cost, the whole process. Then I take them to another property where it's midway through. Then I take them to another property which is finished, completed, and is at that point, hopefully it's already on the market for sale. And all of those properties are my properties. And then I show people from that. The goal with me flipping houses is to gain capital so I could buy rental properties. I don't do what a lot of people promote with 3.5% down FHA. I don't push that. I push positioning yourself to come in here as a real player and put down the 20-25% that these banks would like to see you do to acquire that rental unit. And then you want to make sure that this rental unit is cash flowing. So that's a whole big thing. That's called the real estate ride along. And then I used to in the past, I might do them again, where I would do what I would call the real estate boot camp, where I would acquire a property and I would set it up, and I would have upwards of 15 to 20 people that would be going through the entire process of me purchasing the property. So they would be with me, seeing how I purchased the property, got it funded. I would even take some of them to the closing table with me if they've never been to a closing, close on the property. And then from that point, my average flips take around 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah. They would have to dedicate coming out for the next 6 to 8 weeks every single Saturday to see the progress of the property. And then we discuss the stage that property is at. And then at the end, ultimately, the property would get on the market. It would sell. And then what I would do is everybody that comes to the real estate boot camp, I would help them to create, to get their LLCs. And then to do an operational agreement with their LLC and my LLC, where they would get tied into getting credit for their first flip without them actually having to have invested any money in that deal.
Look, that I had to stop you because that's mind blowing, and mind blowing in the sense of it's unheard of. You're lucky to get theory, and like you said, you're going to learn some acronyms, some verbiage, some real estate terms, but
Right.
to get the practical, hands-on experience, some people will take a course, and it'll be years before they ever even see the inside of a flip property.
That's right.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I think we most of us learns the best with what we can see and touch.
Yeah,
Most of us. And that what everything I described to you of what I'm doing is what I wished I had. Part of the
mm,
reason being taken advantage of is because I was looking for a big homie,
yeah,
or I was looking for a mentor. I was hoping to meet somebody that cared about me as much as I care about the people that I'm mentoring. And I wish that they would be like, Welby, you know what? I see this young, ambitious guy. Hey, Welby, come with me.
yeah,
Let me show you.
yeah,
That's what I was hoping for. But what these people all did is they saw me as an opportunity instead of looking at me as a person that they could help influence to be a player in this business.
yeah,
And if I would have had that at the time, man, God knows where I'd be at, right? So I'm doing what I wished happened for me. So when I have the people come and they part of my mentorship or they come to meet me at my projects, you can see the light bulb
yeah.
click in their eyes. You can see it because they were hearing the idea, but to physically see it, to smell it,
Yeah.
oh shit, I got it. So
Yeah.
that's what I had wanted to do with putting this together, you know. So I've had so many success stories, man, which is humbling, you know what? Because when I get these people coming out to learn from me, it's humbling to even get that from people, you know. So
Yeah. Everything you're doing is really genuine, and I appreciate that because, like you said, people can look at people that want to learn from them as an opportunity, right? And they can just sell them something quick, and you're really developing people, pouring into them, and that's phenomenal.
I'm involved with my people. Don't get me wrong, man. The value that I have in my head is worth millions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm, and I know my worth. I'm not gonna be taken advantage of.
Hmm.
But you better believe that every dime that's invested in me for the benefit of you, you're gonna get your money's worth way over, way over. I do my events. My events. Everybody around me that's in the game, when they hear the length of time I'm with the people, they're like, "Well, but you crazy." I'm talking about people that are in the game, supposedly trying to put the people on. They're like, "Man, 5 hours, we out of here." And the same amount of money that they're charging, I'm with these people 12 hours.
Yeah.
Same thing with my mentorships when we're doing the Zoom. Most people got them on the clock 45 minutes. I'm on it with them for 2.5 hours. I love this real estate shit.
Yeah.
That's true. I love this real estate stuff. But you know what? I'm gonna be properly compensated.
Oh yeah. You should. I can feel your passion though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, how long was it before you were able to get a mentor?
I still haven't gotten one.
And so you really had to take the long road. Somebody really gets, like you said, that $1 million worth of knowledge that you have by being able to be in your mentorship.
And I mean this extremely humble too. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I've never had anybody even till now. Now I've gotten to meet a lot of good friends.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of good friends. Um, um, I met a lot of good friends that are doing their thing in the business, and then as a friendship, you know, as brothers and even brothers and sisters, I've been able to extract ideas from them because you know if you're around people that are doing their thing too, which you should, you'll be able to extract things. And I did like, yo, damn, I didn't think about that. I'll do that too, something like that. I've gotten that, and I appreciate that from people. But as far as someone as that's mentored me, even now, I'd love one. I'd
Mm.
love one. I'd be happy to. I'd love one, but I haven't really had one. No.
Yeah. So that's even more impactful. It's like, you know, not to get too deep, reminds me of myself. I didn't have a father, you know what I mean? So I'm a great dad. And it's because, I know everything that I missed out on. I was like, look, I want to make sure my kids, I pour into them, a whole lot. I try to be
That's
at every game, everything I can be at.
That's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
We try to be better, right? You know, so when they say that that old saying, hurt people, That's not true.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not true. You know, we learn because there's certain things even growing up that I wish that I've had that we try to do better than, you know, than what we experience, you know. So I totally get it.
Yeah. So I do want to tell everybody about you, how to follow you, how to find you. So your name is on the screen. Instagram at my best 197. For those of the people that are listening to it on Apple or Spotify, the link will be in the description so they can definitely get a hold of you. And find out more about you, what you do, who you are, your courses, your mentorship, all of that great stuff.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah. So I got something I love to do on every episode. It's called Success Leaves Clues Podcast. So I like to point out a couple of clues that I got from our conversation, and I'm quite sure the listeners will pick up, whatever else they have as well. But one thing I want to start off with is your resiliency. Like you say, you went through 3 times what most people would see as a failure, but it only built you up. It only made you stronger. You kept pushing through it, and I honestly don't think there's anything that could break you. So you just kept going.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so another thing is your ability to get over fear. So you do it afraid, and I think that's really powerful because fear can paralyze people. And I think you use your fear as a motivation, and you say, look, I'm not going to be held back. I'm not going to be afraid of this. You analyze it properly, which is smart to do, but then you just go ahead and press forward. And then the last thing I want to say is the mentorship. So you didn't have a mentor, but the mentorship you provide can save people a whole lot of time, a whole lot of heartache. And I think it's important that people find themselves a mentor, whatever field it is, whether it's real estate, it could be, information technology, it could be investing in stocks, whatever it is, but don't do it alone. You got to find somebody who can get you through those and navigate you through the pathway.
I couldn't say it better. You said everything perfectly. That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I want to remind everybody out there, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Until next time on Success Leaves Clues podcast.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys. Peace, y'all.
Appreciate you.